Have you ever made a deck that was so good at doing what it do that you just couldn't play it anymore? Well, I sure have, and that dude is Kefka Court Mage. I know, nasty, more Grixis. Great, let's get way more Grixis colors in here. We already got a lot of Azula fans, a lot of Green Goblins, Kefka Court Mage being the kind of guy who kind of started it a little bit, right? I mean, I guess there's probably guys before that. But either way, my best friend got me a Kefka Court Mage a couple weeks after Final Fantasy released, and I always wanted to do a Grixis commander, and I'm like, well, dude, thanks, man. Let's make something happen. And made something happen, I sure did. Now, we all know what Kefka does, right? Or, I mean, by now, you've probably seen him either online or, I don't know, in your play group. Hopefully not. Probably, though. Whenever he enters or attacks, each player discards a card, and then you may draw a card for each card. One card discards this way. Well, not may, but you kind of have to, right? He's got a pretty cool backside, and that lets you also kind of combo off with some other things in this deck. Anyways, what makes my deck so nasty that almost nobody wants to play against, aka my roommate doesn't want to play against this deck, which is totally understandable, and I totally get it. Some people are up for the challenge to face this deck, and I can say, if you are, I'm happy to throw down, but at the same time, I haven't played this deck in almost 3 months now. I think I played it once, actually. Probably one time in the past 3 months. And after that, it was gone forever. So let's see why this deck is so good and so potent at what it do. Alright, so off rip, I have about 8 cards total, maybe more, maybe I missed some, I don't know, that makes each opponent sacrifice a creature. Also, I do have 2 Liliana cards, or 2 Liliana Planeswalkers in here, that makes it so, like, I don't know, I guess I could hit that potentially later on in the game. But basically, I have all ramp and a bunch of those kill spells in here, with a bunch of, a couple other, like, direct kill spells. But either way, the plan is pretty much, for the first 4 turns about, I am ramping and then using that ramp, or just straight up using spells like that, or creatures, whatever, like Fleshbag Marauder and stuff like that, you know, whatever does the job, to make each opponent sacrifice a creature. So these people know I'm playing Kefka, and they don't want to discard their creatures that they want to play. So what are people going to do usually, or just do in general, is they're going to want to set up so that way they can get more card draw usually, right? So within the first couple of turns, I'm making everybody sacrifice creatures, and then everybody's kind of falling behind at this point, or they're just not going to play creatures. Either way, still technically falling behind, and I'm ramping the whole time. So by the time I do get Kefka out, I slam him on the field, and then guess what? We're drawing cards to do that effect more often. So basically, this whole thing is, for the first couple of turns, controlling the board with creatures controlling the board, removing creatures, and 2, getting ramp. And then we also have a couple other annoying effects, like we got 2 more other planeswalkers, like this one that makes it so people can't, you know, search the library at all, do a little milling, I suppose, but I mean, just making sure that they don't, or draw more cards, you know, just straight up not fun to go against stuff, but it is the Grixis way of being Kefka. And then we also have some other more salty cards like Dothy Voidwalker, right? Making sure that people exile all cards that would put into graveyards and whatnot, as well as Rankle, Master of Pranks, you know, making people sacrifice even more creatures, or, you know, discard cards, or whatever. And then we have a bunch of safety hazards that give our Kefka, like, Hexproof, Shroud, whatever, and then a bunch of blink spells too, so that way we can also save him. Because by the time we're realistically summoning Kefka, we do have a mana or 2 because we've been ramping so much. Like, I have at least 12 artifacts in here for straight ramp, which, honestly, like, I get that people put way too much ramp in their decks in general because they think it's good for them. But this deck specifically, it actually does work because Kefka's drawn you so many cards regardless. So then we have a bunch of protection spells or blink spells, so even if somebody doesn't target Kefka, by the time it goes back to our turn right before, we're gonna blink him anyways and make everybody discard a card anyways too, and then we just attack with him the next following turn. And what usually happens is by turn 6, people don't have a board state, and people don't have many cards. So it is pretty nasty. And at that time, for the next three or so turns, I am consistently making people discard more cards, controlling the board state even more. Furthermore, I'm not really doing anything else other than that. And it's really tough because I can't really do my win con until I have enough mana, which is usually around turn 8 or 9. So people kind of just sit there and have to watch and maybe try to get out a hole. You know, I don't have anything that necessarily makes it so, like, whenever I discard a card, like, I don't have the whatever to monument or whatever, you know, like, I don't have anything that makes people discard more cards. It's such, like, I'm just using Kefka so much, I'm blinking him in, just keep summoning him back in and whatnot, that, like, it just works out really well that I'm getting card advantage anyways. I'm not making people necessarily slow down with the other cards I have. Literally all my cards are there to control the board state, and Kefka is there to control their hands. It's such a nasty combo. They do polar opposite things, and it just works out in the way that everybody is in the mud except me, which feels kind of bad. You know, the way Magic goes sometimes though. And if nobody wants me to play, I won't play him. But overall, super nasty deck. Now what is this win con that I have in here? Now outright, I didn't want to just do like a demonic consultation and Thassa's Oracle. Kind of lame in whatever you call that, introspect, I don't know. Lame in any aspect. Oh my gosh, it's lame in any aspect. There we go. So what kind of win cons do we have here? First of all, we got the classic Magmakin Artilleryist. I only got a couple Aether Drift stuff, but whenever you discard one or more cards, this creature does that much damage to each opponent. So we have that, right? And then we have Feast of Sanity, right? Which it only targets one opponent, then you gain, or any target, then you gain 1 life. So this guy is just better for group play. That guy can kind of do the trick as well. But basically, you get the Kefka's backside. So whenever an opponent loses life, and during your turn, you may draw that many cards. So basically, as long as you have 8 or more cards in your end step, you will discard a card because you have too many cards, and then the loop just repeats itself and you're burning everybody. Each opponent's taking 1 damage and whatnot. But again, you have to pay 7 mana to get this guy out, as well as having 3 mana to summon this, or 4 mana for the enchantment. So sometimes it can kind of take a little bit of a build-up, especially if people are trying to still win or slow you down. It can take a little bit to actually get there in the first place. Other things to keep in mind to get there faster. Honestly, I didn't have a win con in this deck right away, and it sucked because when I was playing it, we were like at turn 10, I'm like, damn, I need a finisher in this deck because people are just sitting here watching me do nothing, pretty much, right? So we have things like Demonic Console, which is just a search your library for whatever when you have 4 or more card types on money in your graveyard, and guess what? You're discarding all the time with Kefka, so boom, that's basically that. Go to the next card, we got Dark Petition, basically search your card, and guess what? We usually have 2 or more instant and sorcery cards in our graveyard, so we add 3 mana, black mana to our mana pool. Therefore, basically a demonic tutor, something like that. Yeah. Anyways, boom, we got the 2 searches in there to make the game end faster. I know, I'm a nice guy like that. Other combos that we can also do in this deck that I kind of liked to do in the past, we have Singularity Rupture, destroy all creatures and any number of target players each mill half their library, run it down. And you actually want to target yourself with this, because then you can, we also have a lot of graveyard love, you know what I'm saying? Like, we got Victimize in this deck, Stitch Together. We have a couple cards that just bring cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then you want this guy, right? Emmet Selch enters or attacks raw card, then discard a card at the beginning of your upkeep. If there are 14 or more cards in your graveyard, you transform this dude. And let's see what he do. Alright, when you summon this guy, when you flip this guy, right? Hades, basically you win the game. During your turn, you may play cards from your graveyard. If a card or token will be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. That last part does suck. It do suck. However, during your turn, you may play cards from your graveyard. Guess what? With Singularity Rupture, half your deck is in your graveyard, so you can get the combo piece out early, and then have cards that can do whatever. Like, you basically have, I mean, you're gonna have a search spell. It's nasty. Like, it's been so long since I've actually played this deck to its full potential. Like, it's hard to say what it actually does anymore. Well, not really, because I think it's ingrained in my opponents, or my enemies, you know, nightmares. But all around, this deck was something that I worked on for a little while there, a month or 2, and then my roommate saw how much my Kefka was popping off, and he made his own Kefka deck, and now we both don't play Kefka anymore. It's like such a different degree of what Vivi was. I made a Vivi deck, and that wasn't necessarily evil, but it was just so much of a combo-y deck. And I made an Azula deck and a Vivi deck, and I took both of those apart for the same reason that, oh, like, these aren't fun to play against people that aren't like There's no reason that I even have these decks because I'm not in a competitive format. And they weren't even supposed to be that competitive in the first place, but they're such good commanders by themselves that they just make the decks whatever deck you would put in it as a commander to be strongly overpowered and gross in any like 3 or less bracket that you'd face, or even like some bracket. Like, it's just disgustingly good, right? It's tough because Vivi and Azula were the commander decks that I took apart because I was just comboing off for so long. But Kefka is something like I really can't take apart because it doesn't necessarily combo off for so long. People can have a lot of time to disrupt your gameplay and everything. But it's just one of those cards that took so much time into making like the best it could be at being pure evil that it's hard for me to just get rid of it. But it's like I don't use it. I haven't used this deck in months, and like there's no one that would probably really want to play against this unless somebody's like, I want to play an evil deck, which nobody really does. I'm not gonna bring this either at like my local games where I'll be like, yo, who wants to face this Kefka deck that you're not gonna have any fun playing against because I don't let you play, right? It's one of these decks that like it's so good at what it does, and it like now that I do have a combo piece in here, it can win pretty early depending on if I get the Dark Ritual and the Sacrifice and all this other stuff. But it's so good at what it does, it like inhibits other players to the point where they can't play, and it's so different from any other deck that I've had, not just it being good like Vivi or my Azula deck, but oh, man, it's just so different. Hope you guys enjoyed this little thing. If you want to, I don't know, make a deck evil like this, I don't know, I guess I could put this online and spread the evilness and the hatred to your fellow, like if you're really struggling against some of your buddies and they're making some other heinous crime decks, you know, maybe I can make this deck and post it online because it is pretty savagery. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little video that I have here to talk about my most evil, hideous deck and how I just don't use it anymore. I hope I can use it in the future sometime soon to just do some evil stuff. Maybe for Halloween. I don't know. I don't know if I'm ever going to take this deck apart just because I put so much love and care into this dude. But yeah, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.